I want to talk about one thing in particular in your background. For listeners, I'm always fascinated whenever we have someone from Bridgewater on the show. And one of the things that you said in our prep call, which I loved, is just about Bridgewater's culture and that it's a gift if you let it. And I'd love it if you could expand that a little bit and talk about your experience there.
I think Bridgewater is a really remarkable organization because it is so profoundly aware of the power of culture on an organization. And to me, there's a tremendous number of great lessons I took away from my time there, but one of the really big ones is that if you're intentional all the time about crafting a culture, there's lots of different cultures. It's not like one is necessarily superior to another. But if you're very disciplined about saying to yourself as an organization, and in particular if it's modeled really from the very top of the org down, this is the culture that we're aiming for. We're going to talk about it, we're going to teach it, we're going to focus on it, and we're going to filter the people that we bring into the organization for that culture. You can really accomplish great things. It's sort of how you unite people who are generally hard to unite, actually. And what Bridgewater, I think, has done with its culture, which is now much more visible and conspicuous, obviously, than it was a decade ago when I was there, is a really core piece of Bridgewater's culture is this idea of being open, honest, transparent, and direct with each other, with your coworkers, and not allowing things to kind of build up inside without expressing it, not allowing someone to talk behind someone's back negatively, although even positively to some extent, and just trying to put out where everyone can see it what you're thinking about, with the idea that this is a very powerful way, although it's certainly not the only way, to get at kind of ground truth, to get at reality, as I think Bridgewater would describe it or Ray would describe it, and that there's really value in doing that, especially if what ultimately your business is like investing. And so one of the core tenets or just practices inside Bridgewater as an organization is the giving of feedback. There's a tremendous amount of feedback that you get. You get it person to person, you get it organizationally, like the tools and sort of techniques that exist. And the really remarkable thing about feedback is that it's the only useful way you can improve. If you're not sitting and looking at results, looking at outcomes, and looking in particular at how those results were generated and critiquing that process, you can't actually change the results. It's going to either be totally random that causes the change, or it's going to be the same over and over again. But it's very challenging for us as human beings to actually accept critical feedback. You think you want it, and like everyone's like not everyone, but most people have a first pass of like, yeah, I'd love to get feedback. Of course I want feedback. Of course I want to grow and change and evolve, and I want people to tell me how I can do better. But it's actually not clear, especially when you get it at scale. Like you get a lot of it and you get it unfiltered. And the hard part, I think, for most of us anyway, although certainly for me, but I think for many other people, is trusting that the feedback is coming from a good place. If someone you love and someone you know loves you gives you feedback, it's very trenchant because you know that they care about you and they really mean it. And hopefully you understand that they mean it with your best interests at heart if they're giving you that feedback. So it kind of cuts deep. And it's not necessarily bad, it's very effective, it's powerful. If a total stranger walks up to you and gives you some feedback, you're very quick to dismiss it because you have no idea of what their motivations are for why they're giving it to you. And I think the gift of being at Bridgewater is that you're in an organization surrounded by people who provide you with a tremendous amount of feedback. They're all thoughtful, sophisticated people. Like they're people you should take seriously because it's an organization that filters very highly for who gets in the door. But the gift piece of it is that you have to kind of make that mental leap that they all really have your best interests at heart, that they're your coworkers, that it's a shared environment where everyone is trying to make everyone else better. And it's hard to do. It's hard to keep yourself in a headspace where you really believe it, that this person who is telling you you've done a terrible job on something, and it's easy for us to believe it when somebody tells us we've done a good job. Just human nature. It's hard for you to really hear it when someone tells you you've screwed something up. We're all good lawyers in our heads. Our first instinct is to start arguing in our heads about, no, it wasn't as bad as you think, or that wasn't me, or you're seeing it wrong. But if you can just open yourself up to it and say, I trust that you have my interests at heart and that you're giving me the facts as you see them and you're trying to help me improve, it's really remarkable what that can lead to from a personal growth and an evolution standpoint. And for me, there are many, but one of the big takeaways from time inside that culture is that it was a gift to me to get that feedback. And I want to try to reciprocate that and give honest and direct feedback to other people. And it totally informs the way we do business at Clocktower, is that we want to be as direct as we can and as transparent as we can with as much compassion and consideration for our counterparties in these discussions as possible. But I think in particular in private market investing, where you're not just sort of sending an order to put on a Microsoft trade, you're like sitting across from real human beings who are working hard, and it's a very personal process, venture capital, that there's tremendous value for everybody in that experience to just say, can we get to a place where we acknowledge that we're in the boat together and we trust each other, we have each other's best interests at heart, and let's just cut through it and be honest. It's a really powerful place if you can get there, but you have to work hard to do it. And that's all part of, I think, the lesson from Bridgewater.
I just have one follow-up question on that. I imagine you're in that culture. I'm sure at first it's shocking, kind of like you say, then over time you get used to it. I imagine once you leave, that part never leaves you. And you probably can tell when people give you soft, disingenuous, overly nice, fluffy feedback. So clearly you said that that shaped not only how you interact with your colleagues, but obviously the founders you're talking to. But how has it shaped, I guess, the way, I don't know, the way you can call bullshit on someone giving not real feedback?
It's funny. I think part of being an investor in companies, it's a little bit different if like you're trading dollar yen or something like that. Although even then you sort of are trying to figure out whether politicians are full of it or not. But just part of being an investor in companies is your job in some sense is to judge other people, especially as a VC. VCs all talk about, I want to back the best founders. It's all about the founders. But okay, so what does that really mean you're doing? You're just judging people and trying to figure out who's going to be good by your lights and who's not. And I think a really important part of that is trying to access this question of honesty. And I think most good venture capitalists that I know have a bit of a bullshit detector in them. And that you can just hear in somebody's pitch, do they really believe what they're saying, or are they trying to game you? There's a prominent VC that I know who sometimes talks about authenticity as this like variable that really matters. I want to back a founder with a lot of authenticity to the problem they're trying to solve. It's a little bit of like, do they really believe it? Are they really passionate about this? Are they committed to that story? And so I think the way Bridgewater fits into what I would characterize otherwise as like a broad skill set that I think we have to cultivate and other investors have to cultivate is that once you've experienced anything at extremely high quality and high fidelity, you remember what that's like. And so accordingly, you know what's not that. The limits of our knowledge are the things we've experienced in many cases, and especially in human interactions. You just don't know. And sometimes there are people who have just never really experienced world-class colleagues, because there are just certain organizations where the culture just isn't great. And even if you had elite, compelling talent in that culture, they couldn't perform. They weren't unleashed. Their capabilities weren't unlocked at the highest level. Once you've experienced that, you know what that's like. You want that all the time, and you design your organization to aim for that. Your standards literally move. But if you've never had that, you don't even know what it's like, so you don't even know what you're looking for. And when we hire people, and I encourage our companies to do this, it's like find people who know what greatness looks like and know what greatness feels like, and they'll seek that out. And it's a little bit of the same thing here, that if you know what real feedback that's actionable, that's accurate, that's considerate and compassionate, and just quality feels like, then you know what everything else is. And that idea of once you've experienced something of a certain quality, you forever reset your benchmark.